Was that your stuff?
I don't know if I'm hungry or about to shit myself. G'day and welcome to episode 1 of Guns, Hoses and Stretchers.
Oh, fuck, I wrote staging area wrong.
No, I'm joking. Are you going to ask questions straight up? So you're just going to say, welcome to episode 2. We're talking about this. And then bam, fire into
I'll shut the fuck up. G'day and welcome to episode 10. I think we made it. We finally made it.
Woo.
I don't know.
We should have a celebration.
celebration.
10 party. Episode 10 party.
An episode. You want a Christmas in July party too? Fuck.
Yes, I do. If you had done this
10.
right, we could have had episode 10 in July
yep.
and had the Christmas party. Well, we are in July.
No, it won't be in July.
We're in July now, mate.
Yeah, but this won't come out for another 2 weeks.
Oh, well, that sucks then.
All right, I'm Hayden Mack. That's Simon Roylance.
Hello.
And this is the staging area.
You remember what we were this time?
Yeah, I had too much going on. And I forgot what we were last episode. And now,
We were talking about social media in the last episode,
we
mate,
were.
which was literally 5 minutes ago.
yes, it was. And I forgot about
See the struggles I have, people.
Been-
See what I've got to
been
put
a
up with
long
on
time.
a regular basis.
Anyway, in this week's episode, we're talking gun laws. Yeah. Do you own a gun?
I do.
Have you fired a gun? Obviously, if you own
I've
one.
I've fired lots of guns.
Should have said that
Yeah.
first.
Fired lots of guns.
Do you have a favourite gun?
Oh, no, not really. Not specifically, no.
I guess we're not as bad here in Australia as Americans.
No, we're not as full on. That's for sure.
Just
That's for sure.
we're happy to have a gun. That's
Yeah.
it.
You got gun license?
I've got a
still?
gun
You got
license.
a gun license,
but I
but
don't
you
have a
do you?
gun.
No, that's
No.
right. Yeah.
No, did that. Fired a few guns in my time,
Mm.
but not a keen hunter. That's for sure.
Mm. fair enough.
I don't think I'd have the guts to shoot something.
Oh, we'll change that.
What you're a hunter, are you?
I'm not a hunter, so to
What
speak.
you
like
want
I'm
to
not-
go hunting?
Oh, I've been hunting before. Been hunting plenty of
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
Was that hunting crims as a copper?
Well, it was that too. Didn't shoot any of them though, because that was, you know,
okay. Yeah, that'd be
we were smart. Well, I'm not saying that people that shoot aren't smart, but it was tactically we were able to
Tactically.
disengage people without doing those sorts of things. Yeah.
okay.
So
So let's sort of with gun laws, Australia changed. Was it 90? What year was it? 90
26
after the Port
after
massacre.
Port Arthur. Yeah.
How do you remember much of that time?
I do.
Because I was really young, so I can't
I
recall
do.
anything.
I was in grade 6.
Yeah, okay. So what can you remember what the vibe was around that time? Did you actually take note of what was going on or what your parents were saying?
Yeah, I did because we did. So I remember when we were at school, we did a thing called BTN, Behind the News.
Okay.
So every week they did you watch the Behind the News and you might watch 3 or 4 articles that this BTN thing would put together for you. And then you would choose which one of those articles you wanted to learn more about, and then you had to make a presentation on them a few days later. So you had to write your story and put pictures in there and then present it to the class a couple of days later. So because we were doing that, and I had a keen interest in media back then, even in grade 6, I had a keen interest in media and listening to it and top politics and stuff like that. When Port Arthur happened, I remember watching it on the TV with my parents at home that night. And obviously for the preceding days after that, it was big news because it was it was a significant massacre. So, and the location it took place was so significant. They spoke about it for a long time. And then obviously there was, John Howard introduced the gun laws because of that. They went down the buyback system and they banned certain firearms and all that sort of stuff that took place. So I remember all that stuff. I remember all of it. And since then, that stuff has still been, I guess even to these days, it's still spoken about now. That, there's some people who still don't agree with the gun buyback that took place and the banning and all that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of people who just go, oh, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, it happens.
We've adapted and we've learnt we didn't need to have those assault rifles.
Yeah.
You don't need assault rifles unless you're attempting to assault people. So there'll be people in here to go, no, you can use assault rifles for other reasons. You can use other guns for other reasons.
Yes.
As well. So you don't need to have assault rifles. Everyday people having assault rifles is not something that you require.
I noticed when I listened to 3AW, they do a correspondence from America, and they always use this. So they'll have the number of, or sometimes they'll bring up this woman who says, "I feel sorry for Australia and not them not having gun laws like us," and it's like, what? Like, and then they go through
world you live in.
This is how many firearm deaths have happened this week, as well as mass shootings in America. And then you look at that and you're like, yeah, compare Australia to there, it's fucking totally different.
I've got some statistics for statistics. I can't even speak properly. Statistics for you that I think are alarming and very concerning about America. And I don't think a lot of people know these statistics, to be honest. Like when I say a lot of people, the Americans would know, but I don't think the Australians know, potentially, because I don't think people would be specifically. There'll be people who would know these statistics in Australia because they have a keen interest in it, but the majority of Australians I don't think would know these statistics. And some of them are quite alarming and scary.
Are we getting sponsored by the NRA for this episode?
Fuck no, we're not.
No, okay. Just had to make that
No,
clear.
I don't. Yeah, I have no interest in them.
Okay,
at all. We obviously here in Australia we've got the Sporting Shooters Association of Australia, SSAA, and there's other associations, and I think generally speaking here in Australia they're pretty good. Like they do a pretty good job to work with the agencies and work with community to make sure that people who are getting their firearms licenses in Australia are doing all the right things. And I from a law enforcement perspective, and as a community member, as a father, I have no issues with our gun laws in Australia. I think they're fantastic. You want to get a rifle license or a shotgun in Australia. Well, if I talk specifically here in Victoria, because I'm not, there is, every state has their own little weird little things that they can do. But if we talk specifically about Victoria, I think our gun laws are pretty good. You want to get a gun license here, it's not hard to get your gun license in Victoria. It's not difficult to get it. Some people would say it is. I don't think it is.
No,
if you've done the test, you've gone and done the little 2-hour course, whatever it is that you do, and then you do your test. And then to physically get your license, it's not difficult to get your license. Like you've either got to be a part of a gun club, have land that you can hunt on, or have a gaming license from Department of Sustainability and Environment, or it's now, what are they now? DELP, or no, it's not even DELP anymore. It's DECA
I don't
now.
know. I bought it off them
the
last time.
It's DECA now, Department of Environment, Climate Change Action or something. So it's not difficult to get it, but they do make sure that you're the right person to be getting a firearm. They don't just hand them out willy-nilly. You've got to be able to prove a process to get your license. And if you're a person who does own firearms and you're involved in some sort of criminal activity or something takes place and the police are aware of that, it's very easy for them to remove your firearms license and to remove your firearms as well. So I don't have a problem with our gun laws. If you want to have a handgun in Victoria and you're not in the security, defence or law enforcement industries, then that process is harder again. You have to join a pistol club, a pistol handgun club, and you have to get a provisional license for a period of, I think it's 6 to 12 months. I think it's 6 months, and then after 6 months you can attempt to get your general category handgun license, but it takes between 6 and 12 months for that to happen. You've got to hold your provisional first and pay for that provisional. You have to be a part of a club during that time, and you have to shoot in a sporting capability. So you can't just get it be at the club and never shoot and then go get your license, because a club has to, as my understanding, the way I read it, because I'm going through the process at the moment right now myself, you have to, they've got to prove, the club's got to prove that you're actually shooting and participating, and you've got to pay a membership to be a part of a club. So there's a whole heap of things that come with that for you to get your pistol license, and therefore a lot of people in Australia, or not Australia, but in Victoria, a lot of people don't get their pistol license because they can't be bothered with all the bits and pieces, because once you then got it, you have to continue to participate in competitions. You've got to attend a few a year, which it's really not a lot, but you've got to attend a few a year, and if you don't, I think they can cancel your firearms license at that time. Okay. So it's a good process. And again, if you're a person who holds a firearm license and holds firearms, and the police have concerns about you, they can remove your firearms and your license. So it's a much better system than a lot of people think it is. A lot of our gun violence here in Victoria, we were talking about this just off air a few minutes ago, a lot of the gun violence that takes place in Victoria in particular is generally criminals versus criminals. And normally those criminals don't have a firearms license because they're criminals. Mm-hmm. And the guns that they have, they're normally getting from the black market, so to speak. They're not going to a gun shop and buying, because to buy a firearm from a gun shop in Victoria, or to buy a second-hand firearm, or to have firearms transferred from one family member to another family member, that is a lengthy process. You know, it's not an easy process. You've got to go through a whole heap of things to make that happen. So these people who need firearms illegally, they're either breaking into people's houses and stealing firearms of good gun owners, which doesn't happen as much these days as what it used to, because the laws around your safes and stuff have all changed again. So, there's new laws in that space over the last couple of years. So generally, they're getting those firearms off the black market. They're bringing them in from overseas somewhere, and, they're not the good law-abiding gun owners in Australia are not the problem when it comes to gun violence. They are very rarely involved in gun violence. Where they are involved in gun violence, I would argue that something slipped through the crack. The intelligence at the law enforcement end wasn't strong enough to stop these people from, having their firearms, potentially. So there's some issues in that space. If you look at that compared to America, there's a big difference. It's a huge difference in what takes place over there compared to what happens here. Over there, you want to get a gun, you literally go and sign some paperwork and you get a gun. Like, you can walk into a gun shop and get a gun without anyone doing any background checks on you or doing anything that's really going to ensure that a safe person is receiving a firearm. You can put guns in cabinets, glass cabinets. You can put your firearms in without having a lock or key on them. Here in Victoria, we've got to have a safe that's bolted down, keyed. There's got to be different compartments. Your ammunition and your firearms have to be kept separately. They've got to be locked up. They've got to be locked up. There's all these processes that you've got to follow. In America, you can just put them inside a glass cabinet. You can have it in your bedside table with nothing.
That's because
this is crazy.
The Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment, which I have no issues with their amendment. You and I have spoken again about this in the past. I'm a huge supporter and believer in free speech, and I'm a huge supporter and believer in people's rights and their constitutions and legislation protecting them and all that stuff. I'm all for that stuff, and I get their amendments. And their amendments, in some respects in America, are really good for them. But they are called amendments. And an amendment means it can be amended. And if you've got the things happening over there like they do in America at the moment with their guns, and they have for a number of years now, but it's getting worse as every day goes on, you need to make an amendment. You need to change this, because I've got here on the screen in front of me the top 10. It's actually a top 24. Okay. But I'm only doing the top 10 because that's what I think we should highlight here. The top 10 massacres in America from the 1950s up until now. Okay. And this top 10, the majority of these top 10 have happened in the last 10 years. Okay. Right, there's only one that's sort of outside of that, or maybe two that are outside of there's two that are outside of that. Everything else has kind of happened in the last 10 to sort of 15 years. All right. And then I'm going to tell you some other statistics. So let me just go through these with you just to sort of prove, I guess, that point of the difference. All right. In position 10, we have 2 massacres. So this is the problem with the top 10. The top 10 is actually filled with more than just 10.
Yeah, right.
All right? So the top 10, and this is by the amount of people who were killed.
Okay.
All right? So top 10, Parkland High School shooting. So high school, this is my concern. High school, elementary schools, so what we would call primary schools here in Australia, elementary schools, universities. These are these unfortunately are, often in these massacres, these shootings over there, but then also ordinary places like there's churches, McDonald's, like things where everyday people are just going about their ordinary business, and then they don't go home because someone had a beef with either someone else or they just wanted to kill a heap of people and then kill themselves for whatever reason. So top 10, right? Parkland High School shooting, 2018, Parkland, Florida, 17 people are killed. The individual who killed these people was using a semi-automatic rifle. Right? This is going to be really important as we go up to think about this semi-automatic rifle component. Also in the top 10, or also in the number 10th spot, University of Texas Tower shooting, 1966, so a little bit outside of the time frame, but Austin, Texas, 17 people plus the offender was killed. During that time, 31 people were injured, as well as, so you got the deaths, and then there's 31 people injured. During that gunfight, they utilised a bolt-action rifle, semi-automatic carbine revolver, a semi-automatic pistol, and a pump-action shotgun. Number 9, the Robb Elementary, so primary school. Robb Elementary School, 2022. So last year. That was in, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Uvalde in Texas. Now, if I'm correct, and I could be wrong, so I could be very wrong here, but I think that is the town. I think that's the hometown of Matthew McConaughey. You know the actor?
Yeah.
All right. That's him.
Okay.
That's his hometown, I think. And he's actually doing a ton of work with that community now around gun violence and and he's actually a part of a big push in America at the moment to not necessarily change their amendment, but to change the way people's beliefs are around firearms and to do some grants and things for schools to fortify schools to help them when these things happen. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that a bit later on. But anyway, so Robb Elementary School shooting, 21 people are killed, including the offender, and 18 people are seriously injured. The offender used a semi-automatic rifle. All right?
Jesus.
Number 8. I may get this town wrong, but San Ysidro McDonald's Massacre, 1984, San Diego, California. 22 people plus the offender are killed. 19 people are seriously injured. The offender used a semi-automatic carbine pistol and a shotgun. In number 6, we have 2 shootings holding the 6th place. El Paso Walmart shooting 2019, El Paso, Texas. 23 people are killed. 23 people are seriously injured. The offender used a semi-automatic rifle. Also in the 6th spot, Luby's shooting, 1991, Killeen, Texas. 23 people are killed, plus the offender. 27 people are seriously injured. The offender used a semi-automatic pistol. Or pistols, I should say, pistols the offender had at that time. Number 5, the Sutherland Springs Church shooting, 2017, Sutherland Springs in Texas. 26 people plus the offender are killed, 22 people seriously injured. The offender used a semi-automatic rifle. You've seen a common occurrence here with the firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Sandy Hook Elementary School. Now, I think most people will know about the Sandy Hook Elementary School. Everyone's pretty aware of that one because it was big news at the time. 2012, Newtown, Connecticut. 27 people are killed, including the offender. 2 people seriously injured. The offender used a semi-automatic rifle, a bolt-action rifle, and a pistol. You're in a primary school. They killed young children. Little kids were killed because they went to school to learn how to be whatever in society, whatever that their heart desired, and they were killed. Sorry. You know Chris Chris is ringing me.
Oh, okay.
You know, not Chris, but the other Chris
The
from
other
New
Chris.
South. He's currently ringing. He'll hear this and he'll get excited. He's a good bloke. So we're talking little kids, yeah, little kids at school got killed for nothing. Spot number 3, Virginia Tech shooting, 2007. That's Blacksburg, Virginia. 32 people plus the offender are killed. 23 people are injured. 17 of those were injured from the gunfire itself. The person used a semi-automatic pistol. Number 2, Orlando nightclub shooting, 2016, Orlando, Florida. 49 people are killed, plus the offender. 58 people are injured. 53 of those are injured via gunfire. The offender used a semi-automatic rifle and a pistol. Here's the big one. Number 1 spot, okay? Las Vegas, 2017, Paradise, Nevada. 60 people are killed, including the offender. 867 people are injured through the shooting. 413 plus of those people were injured through gunfire. So they were actually shot but didn't die. The offender used a semi-automatic rifle, or rifles, I should say, some outfitted with bump stocks, so a bit more tactical type stuff, bolt-action rifles, and revolver.
Fair income.
60 people. I don't know if you remember that one. I remember that one.
That was
because
at the country music.
At the country music festival,
Festival,
and they were shooting. He was shooting from
the tent.
from the apartment block, whatever it was, the
hotel.
Yeah. So they had, you know. So I want to show you something else. All right. I want to bring something to your attention. All right. A little bit more in this space. All right. This is an article. So I'm looking at articles here that I've pulled off the internet from different sources. Mass shootings in US on a record pace for 2023 so far. On a record pace. 2009 was the worst year in America's history for mass shootings. In 2023, they are well and truly going to pass that at this point in time.
Yeah, right.
All right. The carnage so far in America this is through mass shootings. So we're not talking about individual. We're not talking about gangs killing each other, all right, or individual people getting shot. We're talking about mass shootings alone. 88 people have been killed so far this year. 17 of those are through mass killings in a 111-day period. Each time the killers were wielding firearms. In 2009 was marked by as many such tragedies in the same period of time. So they're looking to surpass this, okay, already this year for mass shootings. Now, obviously, these mass shootings, they include lots of different bits and pieces, all right? So they include, you've got like your school and your shopping centre shootings and stuff like that. They also class their mass shootings, so any more than 4 people and above is a mass shooting.
Okay.
So they include their gang retaliation in that, which is happening a fair bit at the moment in America, from what I can read from their data. And there's also like if you're looking at suicide, like murder-suicide stuff as well, where a family member or someone goes and kills 4 or 5 of their family members and themselves. Still pretty bad. But here's the other thing I wanted to highlight, right, which was I found, well, it's probably not interesting to some people, but it is to me, if I can find it. It's saying that they're going to be on track this year to potentially surpass any year they've ever had when it comes to mass shootings. But listen to this one, right? 4th of July, 2023. So
Right.
a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Nearly just under 2 months. We're going to be the 4th of August this week.
Yeah.
So we're looking at just under, whatever it's been. Okay. In America, 4th of July is what in America?
Independence Day.
Independence Day. It's where they celebrate their independence, apparently. Independence Day in America also had what to do with their constitution. It's where their amendments started to come from.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all folded out. 4th of July this year. Less than a month and a half ago. 4th of July overshadowed by 16 mass shootings in the United States in one 24-hour period.
Shit.
So they've had 17 mass shootings this year. 16 of them occurred on the
one
4th
day.
of July across 13 states. 15 people were killed, 94 people seriously injured across 13 states, which included Washington, D.C. I don't know why that's important, but maybe this is from Washington potentially. All right? They talk about it through this article. They talk about how, one of the youngest victims of the weekend was a 14-year-old boy who was killed early on the Wednesday in a shooting at a 4th of July block party on the Maryland Eastern Shore. 6 others were injured in the incident in the town of Salisbury. 2 people were killed and 38 others wounded, including 15 children in a mass shooting in Baltimore, Maryland on Sunday. So I think this was throughout the 4th of July weekend or the week, because they kind of celebrate throughout the week. I don't think it was necessarily the one day, but they do say it's the one day, but then the dates kind of don't match up with that. Or maybe they're saying there was the one day and then there was a whole heap. But basically, from what they looked at over the weekend, incidents took place in Washington, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Maryland twice. So the area of Maryland had 2 mass shootings in that week period or whatever it was, or the day of. Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Texas twice. So Texas and Maryland had 2 mass shootings, and the Texas one, they had their mass shootings occurred within like a 6-hour period of each other.
Shit.
Now, I got friends in America that I know through social media. So I've never met these people. I've been social media friends with them for a very long time through connection with the fire services and stuff like that. They are big on don't touch our guns.
Yep, okay.
Leave our guns alone. We've got a Second Amendment. I've got a right to bear arms. You're a fucking idiot. Like, I'm sorry. I know they're my friends. I kind of pull away from them when they talk about this stuff because you're a dropkick. All right? If you as an individual, as a person, if you are so hell-bent on needing to have your firearms and have your Second Amendment to bear arms, right, to defend yourself and your constitution and your people, I've got no issues with that. And no issues with you having your firearms and bearing arms. But here's the deal. If you don't have better laws to stop people getting easier access to guns, then this shit's going to keep happening. And young children, little kids going about school, trying to become good little humans, trying to, live out their dreams and be astronauts or be doctors or be a mechanic or a chippy or whatever it is that they want to be in their lives, be a vet, be a nurse, whatever the friggin' hell it is that they want to be. These kids aren't even getting a chance to make it to high school because some arsehole's going into the school, either the same age as them or older, and just fucking obliterating them with firearms that these people don't need to have. Why do you need an assault rifle? You only need an assault rifle for one reason, to kill people. That's it. We've been hunting here in Australia for years now with bolt action firearms.
Yep.
It's not a problem. We do pretty good with it. We do sports with bolt action firearms. We do pretty good at it. We're probably some of the best in the world. We've got all these things in place. We're not having kids killed in fucking primary schools or at McDonald's or at the church, whatever, because for whatever reason, people just turn up there and just start annihilating people with friggin', guns. That shit's not happening here because we have tight gun laws and people are protected in that sense. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. We know it happens. We know people shoot people in Australia. That happens every year. We know it. But we're not seeing massive massacres because people aren't walking around here with their friggin' guns. And then you have that argument. They say, "Oh yeah, but if I carry my gun and then someone tries to do the massacre, I can shoot back and kill them."
Well, how many times
has that happened?
I don't think there's been anybody that stepped in to stop.
I haven't seen in all the data I've read in the last week or so in preparation for this episode. I don't think I haven't come across anything yet where any graph has shown
civilian with a gun.
The civilian with a gun has stopped a massacre from occurring. There's the occasional. I have heard of it in the media, but I haven't been able to find the actual article, so therefore I'm not. But outside of that, it's all bullshit. And if you can't, as Americans, if you can't sit there and look at your law and go, this law is good, but it needs to be amended and changed to protect innocent little children, little kids who had nothing. They were just going to school, and then they get murdered in their classrooms by some arsehole. All right? If you can't see that you need to change what you're doing, then you are absolutely fucking stupid. And I mean that in the exact way it is. You're a fucking idiot. And you should be doing everything you can to protect these little kids and say, you know what, no, we're going to change the way this process works. All right? Better process. It'll take them years. This is the problem with them. If they don't start now, it's going to take them years to implement this stuff to get all of those guns into some sort of control. And they never will get them fully into control. You understand that.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, if you have one massacre a year versus fucking 17 so far, surely that's a better space. Surely that's better than what they've got happening.
So I've got a story about being locked down in high school. So
Yeah,
there
okay.
was I can't remember the exact incident, but a man had shot, I don't know if it was 2 people or 1 person in Melbourne. And then I think a few days later so they ended up finding him in Whittlesea.
Oh.
And so they locked the school down.
Yep. Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, and I sent you
Yeah,
the text
you
message.
sent me the text message.
Say,
Just-
did you know anything? Because you worked
Yes.
for Vic Pole at the time.
Yeah.
And you said, just stay away from the windows.
I did.
So, but
Well, because that's what we were getting told ourselves.
the differences compared to you. Now, I don't know how true the videos are that I'm seeing on TikTok of people inside classrooms in America. How they're frightened, they switch the lights off, they block the windows out and all this sort of stuff. And they're all panicky and all this sort of stuff. Where in Australia, like the difference was the gunman at school
Yeah.
where I was in the area
That's right.
where in America they're inside the fucking class, like
They're in
the
there.
buildings.
Yeah.
And so our threat wasn't that bad, and none of us took it seriously. I guess that's probably the benefit of Australia as well. You're like, we've got that fucking take the piss out of the situation sort of thing going
Yeah.
on. So
Until
I can remember
something happens, and then we're
That's
like,
right.
oh, fuck.
So that was the vibe at the high school at the time. There was kids needing to go to the toilet, and they were like, I don't give a fuck. I want to go to the toilet. And there was kids getting yelled at by teachers that were
And let's be
walking out
honest.
and walking about.
Let's be honest. You didn't want to go to the toilet. They were going out to see if they could see what was going on.
Oh, probably
That's
that too,
100%
but-
what they were doing.
But still, like, I was stuck in the library
Yeah.
for a few hours, and they wanted us to piss in a bucket. That was the worst part.
Good thing about being stuck in a library,
You got books and computers.
you got books and computers, and if there really was a shooter there, if you were smart, you get the hardest books you possibly can. Make
Build
yourself
up
a vest.
fort.
Make yourself a vest. Strap it to yourself, mate.
Really?
Fuck oath. It's not going to stop you getting shot. It'll slow the bullet down, though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that was one thing that I've noticed between the experience that I had in a lockdown compared to what America would be like.
Oh, yeah. You
They'd
think about it
be
like,
fucking like, and there was a video that I saw of someone yelling out "police," and then they're not sure whether it's actually the police,
the police or not, yeah.
and so they're still panicky and stuck in the room. It's like, fuck.
In America, and this is what, again, this is where I can't understand Americans. This is the bit about Americans I don't get them, all right? In America, they openly teach their children. It's a part of school curriculum. You are taught how to bunker down and defend yourself within a classroom, and they run drills regularly for schools to bunker down and lock doors. The kids are taught to push their desks up against the table and flip some desks up, drop the shades, do all of these sorts of things. And, they're taught to put like a sign on the window that tells the police outside how many students are in that particular classroom, so the police can work out how long is it going to take us to get 12 kids out of there or 17 kids out of that classroom through that window. Where's the shooter? Who do we go for first? Or the kids are taught this. This is trained. They're trained to do this. that to me is just, as a father, fucking sickening. Like, yes, I'd rather you train them than don't train them at all, because clearly you fucking need to, because you're just stupid. But don't you think you should put more effort into the fact you need to start controlling your firearms and controlling the people who are getting access to firearms and your laws around firearms? Maybe control that as well as doing the training, so that eventually the training is not required, because then you should know within, 10, 15 years, because that's how long it's going to take them to get to that point. And if they wait 10 or 15 years to do this, then it'll be even longer again, because you're going to have more people, more guns, more this. There's going to be more violence beforehand, all that sort of stuff. So if you don't start doing it now, surely that's a better process. It's got to be.
There was one that I heard, I don't know how long ago it was, but they were talking about, we should train teachers in firearm training.
Yeah.
It's like, hang on, what if the fucking teacher ends up having a meltdown one day?
And then they've got a gun on them.
Yeah.
And that's happened before. They've had mass shootings in America before where teachers have snapped and shot people. So I don't think that's a great idea.
Definitely not.
It's just a fucking stupid idea. But again, that's your thought. You're in America, their theory is, let's give more people guns. Instead of taking the guns away and limiting them, let's give more people guns. And now we'll give the teachers guns as well. And they can what? They're just going to walk around strapped every day?
It's just
strapped up with a tool on their belt or whatever, so they're ready to rock and roll. I don't want my kids going to a school where everyone's walking around with a gun, unless they're going to the military or a police academy. I don't want my kids going to a school with a gun strapped to them. I'm so glad we don't have to do that here in Australia.
Definitely.
Like, it's just, and I will never understand Americans who think that, your Second Amendment right to bear arms sits higher on the chain than a young child's right to go to school, be safe and protected, and to be able to go home and not be fucking shot by some idiot. Like, your Second Amendment sits higher than that. That, to me, just shows you the kind of stupidity that they have in that country.
It's all because they're worried about an invasion that may never happen.
Well, the invasion's going to come from their own people.
Probably, yeah.
Their invasion in America, the invasion in America will come from their own people first. It'll be a civil war that will take out America long before any other war will, because they're pushing their people down that path as it is. You just look at what happened following George Floyd, and you see all the riots that happened over there then. It's if people think that stuff's just quietly disappeared in the background, it hasn't. It's just that was like the start of a powder keg over there, and that powder keg at some point is going to blow up, and it's going to be a free-for-all. And, you just have to look now. We see the occasional police shooting in America. When I say police shooting, I'm saying police being shot. We see that occasionally. If you go and look on their records, it's happening like multiple times every week that their police are being shot. Not shot at, but shot in the line of duty. Nearly every week it's happening. And the police are shooting people every week. That's a problem. Like, I get, people will say, but America's such a big country. There's 50 states.
50-something states.
50-something states in America. I can't remember now, but
see, and
50-something states in America. 52?
We've got something in common with Americans. We're shit with geography.
Yeah, we got fucking no idea. 'Cause they think, half the Americans think Australia doesn't exist.
Yeah.
52, what is it? Say 52 states, whatever it is. Anyway, out of 52 states, yes, there's millions of people there. There's it's millions and millions of people there. That's, regardless of your millions of people, you shouldn't be shooting people all the time. Like, you don't need to. You're doing it because you've got access to guns, and you shouldn't have access to those guns, clearly. Like, you need to bring some laws into place to stop that from happening. What I find is the weird ones where you get the coppers who get on the TV and go, we need to do better. We need to do better in these shootings. We need to teach people better, and we need to teach people not to shoot people when they've got a problem, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing, rah, rah. Why don't you just come out and say you shouldn't have guns? They won't say, because if you say you can't have guns, then they have to change the laws for the police as well, and the police won't have they'll have their guns, but their laws might have to change around and the cops want to carry their guns even when they're off duty. So, because that's what they do in America, they carry their guns all the time, So it's there's this whole weird process of people who are supposed to be controlling it and looking after it, and who are also in danger of people having guns, kind of don't want the law to change either, because then it's going to affect how they're allowed to carry their guns. So it's all like, it's just ridiculous. Every conversation, I'm yet to hear any American, not one American has ever convinced me through their arguments, through anything that they say, that they shouldn't change their Second Amendment. They've never put up an argument that makes any sense whatsoever. And I think, have you seen the Jim Jeffries, when he was in America,
Yeah.
he did a thing, and it went for like 40 minutes, and he spoke about their gun laws. And, you know, I think Jim Jeffries, I'm 50-50 on the guy. Sometimes I like him, and sometimes I'm really happy he's an Australian comedian, and other times I just think he's an idiot and shouldn't be allowed to speak to people. So I'm like 50-50 on it. But in that particular episode, that particular show, that stand-up that he did, and he was talking about their gun laws, was one of the times where I go, I'm so glad he's an Australian. I'm so glad he's over there in their face on their stage with hundreds of them in the room, and he just fucking serves them with it. And I'd sit there going, good on you. Like, well done. Such a smart thing to do. But, you know, they still don't listen. They just laughed it off like it was funny. It was funny. But in amongst his comedy and his jokes, he was making some very serious and very valid points, and they still didn't get it.
Yeah, it's a very strange country, America.
Strange, all right. Can't wait to go there, but it's strange.
Well, after this episode, pack your bulletproof
I might
vest.
not be allowed to.
What did I say? Pack your bulletproof vest.
Both having trouble speaking today. Must be a Saturday thing.
Saturday mornings.
Saturday morning issues.
Oh dear. America. I think they got to. And you're right with amendments. Whatever was written 200 and something years ago, was it? I don't know. Yeah, they'd be 200 and something. I'd assume.
Be probably more than that.
They should get their shit together, and because people back then wrote stuff for it to be changed, and then for some reason we just have sat in the bullshit that's been written for 100 years ago.
And they're like, and I could be wrong in this, so I'm not putting everything into this basket or my eggs in this basket, but my understanding is when they had their Second Amendment component was written all those years ago, it was about the Americans being able to defend themselves against their government, because there was issues within the government and there was trouble at that time, and they also had they had all the other stuff going on and whatever else, and so they created that amendment, that number 2, or Amendment 2, whatever it was put in there so they could defend themselves against their government. I get it, but you can change that.
Yes,
You can change it now. Or you probably still should defend yourself against your government if you're American. But it doesn't mean that everyone's guns get taken off them. But it says, if you're going to get a gun, maybe you should have to go get a license first so they know you've got a gun. And maybe you should have to have you've got open carry. And I think it's in Texas, you can have open carry firearms. So once you got a gun, you just put it on your hip and walk around. And people literally do that in Texas. They just, go to the shops with their guns on in case they need it. It's a bit of a weird concept for us, I guess, over here, because we don't need that sort of stuff. But if you have open carry, fine. Have your normal gun license, have your open carry. Your firearms should be registered. There should be a way that they've got to be kept in a safe and the way they're supposed to be. All these sorts of things should happen. Just change those components. You don't have to literally say that you can't have a firearm. Just change the way in which your processes that move from there, that you've got to have them in that way. Just like we do here in Australia. I've got guns. I've got a license. I've got guns. They stay in my safe. I don't need them on me all the time. When I do have them, I'm very safe about the way I transport them. That's the process. Do the same thing in America. What's the issue? Do the same thing in America. It's not going to be hard, but they make it hard and they complain about you taking my rights. They're not taking your rights off you. They're not taking your right to say you can't have a firearm. They're just saying that maybe some people shouldn't have firearms. And maybe you should have laws that make sure that if people who are criminals who then get firearms, because I know in America there is things where if you become a criminal, you then can't have a firearm. But you can still buy one. You just can't get caught with it. Well, that's fucking stupid. You should have a license, and your license should be suspended. And if your name's not in the computer that says that this person's allowed to have a gun, then they shouldn't be allowed to buy one. Then they can go from the black market. When they get it from the black market, they should be charged with that and put in prison or whatever the requirement is at the time. Fair chance if they're getting a firearm illegally because they've been banned as being a person who can have a firearm. Fair chance if they're getting it illegally, they're a criminal and they're going to use that firearm illegally. So they should be charged with that anyway. But that's where in America they don't see that as a thing. But then they complain when their police officers get gunned down by people who have got guns. And you don't get charged with the gun offences because you're allowed to have those guns. You just get charged with the murder. Well, that's ridiculous. So they need to really change their tact. And it sickens me every time you hear about these things in America and the fact that nobody wants to change it. And there's no politician over there with the balls to stand up and say, you know what? We do need to look at how we change this. We don't take the guns off you, but we need to look at the way that we change this process so that we can know who and hasn't got guns and make sure that the people who shouldn't have guns don't get their hands on them. It will slow things down. But it's America.
Only they can change their country, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
But until then, we'll obviously keep hearing about fucking mass shootings in America.
Yeah. Now that we've said it, there'll probably be one in the next...
Oh, yeah.
No doubt there's probably one happening right now. But, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's gun laws. US gun laws as well.
And if you are Australian and you think we need to toughen up our gun laws, go look at the process first before you go shooting off at the mouth and saying that we need to toughen ours up. Go look at the process first because our gun laws, they're pretty strong here. The people, the good law-abiding gun owners with a license and registered and they're safes and that, they are not the ones that are causing issues with the guns. It is the criminals, and generally speaking, they're getting those firearms from overseas. They're coming in from overseas. They're getting them on the black market. They're guns that normal everyday gun owners like myself and like you, we don't have them because, one, we don't want them, we don't need them, and we don't want to break the law to go and get them because we've got what we need for the purposes of what we do. And we're very safe in what we do. And generally speaking, nearly every gun owner that I know is very, very safe at what they do. They're very cautious around what they do with their firearms and their license because they don't want to lose it. It's the ones that don't have them. They're the ones that we've got the problem with. And they're the ones we need to be, having stronger laws and stronger processes to go after. So, yeah. There you go.
That's been episode 10 of The Staging Area.
Boom.
I've been Hayden Mack. That's been Simon Roy Lance.
Goodbye.
Don't say goodbye yet.
Don't say goodbye?
Fuck, I forgot. Oh, get on the social medias. Facebook, Twitter.
Yes.
No, not Twitter. TikTok.
We're not on
That's
Twitter.
what I meant.
We might go on Twitter now that Elon's got it.
Elon?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I like Elon. He's a good dude.
Twitter, then maybe. Okay. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, tsa@militum.com.au is the website. Jump on Rumble and YouTube, and you can watch a full episode or listen to us wherever you'd like on your preferred podcasting platform. Or maybe. I think we're on Google now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I put it on Google Podcasts.
Hey.
So
Google had podcasts, so that's pretty cool.
Google Podcasts,
We're there.
Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So tune in next time. Hooroo!
There's a real long pause. Goodbye, everybody.